No. I've got to figure out how to monitor progress or lack of it. You're where right there, you know, okay.
They're supposed to go to the board.
Okay. Got it.
And no one's complaining here yet.
Mary Lynn is on her way. So
She's going to be in water.
they're doing water, yeah.
It's gonna not be crazy.
We're going to wait a few minutes, Mary Lynn. Do we know on the phone?
Is it
I'm sorry. Who is?
Jen? Okay.
Okay. And Amanda, could you call her to planning and see if Mary... That's okay.
Mike not in today? Sorry. I'd rather have you.
We haven't started yet. We're waiting for Mary Lynn.
Okay. Good question for if you haven't met it when the meeting's over. I saw a hardwood container with full of solar inside it, the roll-up doors and the array on top.
The inverter and that's something we put inside it?
With the array mounted to the top of the container with a roll-up door and sit alongside for access. I've seen it before.
So, that's something...
It's not a ground mount, it's over 7 foot.
Right.
But it's a modified container only for solar, in frequent use, not for storage.
So,
Do we need a civil architect engineer to design a container?
right, so it doesn't fall into the category of storage container now.
Right.
It's a building.
It's a utility building.
So then engineering and that whole, yeah, it's unfortunate.
So, storage building for electrical and has the electrical contractor design the electrical for that.
It could be,
That could just be electrical?
Solar and electrical would be under the electrical code. Yeah, okay,
that meets the
so,
requirements of the...
but they can do, what if we went Class K with it because it's serving to the Class K house?
So,
Just thinking, I want to direct you,
yeah,
I want you to run that around.
I think you could use the Class K ordinance. So it would be a storage building.
Because the engineering costs more than the system's worth. Okay. I'll run it by you and Mike. But it was just cool, I never think seen
Is she coming?
Great idea. Fold the house down, move it, take another property as a power plant. Inside it with the panels down under the roof, you can pull down flat.
Oh, yeah. So she's probably...
Flipping on to my
So that's,
little power plant.
Okay, so Mary Lynn's running a little late, so we're going to go ahead and get started since it's 20 to 2. I'd like to do introductions, and I'll have the time. Is there anybody else on the phone other than Jen? Okay, then we'll start in the room.
Hello, Siobhan Holmes, Department of Agriculture, Cannabis Program Administrator.
That's where we're going. Okay.
Ron Edward CK Nursery. Arundel Greywall, County Ag Commissioner and Sealer.
Devin Mendocino County Farm Bureau. Hello, local advocate and farmer.
Wilson, planning and building inspector.
Julia Carrera, Associate.
Carmel Angela, Mendocino County CEO.
Beth Borga, Executive Office. Amanda Walter, Executive Office.
Scott Ward Company.
Great, thank you. Okay, so What I would do before we get into the second item, status and the fact list, fact sheet, is can one person in here, in one paragraph, tell me where this working group was last time you met? Where were you? And I'm going to look to you, because, no, not where you were locally.
The Ag Department. Jim was there, Ron and myself and Marv Levin were there, and we were... Yeah, Jim was there, and we were there late. Marv came late. And task Kelly tasked us with was to go through the final draft of the FAQs. We did, and he considered that we were done, and he was going to wordsmith it and format it and get it ready for publication.
So that...
Presentation to the board.
Yes.
Okay, so your last project, so to speak, was the FAQs. So where are they now?
Well, we don't know if they were edited.
I have no idea where they are.
You edit.
It's county staff.
I sent this to Sarah during the break.
Okay, so...
That was my most up-to-date copy of it.
We're talking anything.
No.
Yes, June.
Okay, so have these been, Siobhan, have these been edited, revised, anything?
I don't think so. They could have been, Kelly emailed this to me after their last meeting in response to a conversation I was having with an applicant about the FAQs. The title of the document was Final Draft, but I don't know if he actually edited it.
Okay, all right, got that.
Yep.
Anything else, Scott, I'm looking at you again, anything else that this committee was working on that's left undone?
The ag exempt, we got that worked out with the ship containers and the hoop houses. It's been completed, pulled in the ag exempt policy. We did the FAQs, and the F1 occupancy is still outstanding and needs a more robust discussion for trim bills. That's about it. That's all we've done, which was a lot, to get the ag exempt ordinance policy modified to help cultivators. That was huge. And the FAQs took a long slog as well, because so many people having input. We had a pretty good document. Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, we had a pretty tight document.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, I mean, that was right, Kelly's departure, I don't know what happened with it after it left our office.
yeah, we had a lot of input. We got input from staff and county, and even offline discussions, bringing back to make it a fairly good.
You never have something else, it's perfect, but it's a good document that we have.
And your intent with the FAQs was to get them to the board, get them approved, and then get them online?
Correct.
Okay.
We should just have a link with online material for planning, have it on planning's page, health page, and buildings page, and ag's page. Just have it.
So
They ask questions, they can click on it, not just the cannabis site. And you can, at the end of it, redirect them to the cannabis site.
So, Sean, do you know if Kelly went through and edited these and they're done? You don't know if they're done? Okay.
If I could look at it, I could tell you the question.
You should.
It's not bad. No, it's not, this isn't it. This is not it.
I've got a problem already also.
This is not it.
Anywhere?
Look at it.
Yes, so this is.
Please pass that around. Do you not have?
We can make copies.
There's a whole...
Finished one?
There's a
Didn't
stack.
because we.
Behind Ron, there's a stack.
But this, okay, so I think what Julie's asking is that from the last time we met, Kelly marked up this version.
That copy.
In Mexico?
No,
How would we know?
I don't know.
Do you have it? Do you have it?
negative. This is the only thing I have.
Yes.
Do you have recordings of the last meetings?
I wasn't here.
I was pretty free with my thing.
Those meetings were held
In ag?
under the ag department, under the cannabis unit, so I have no idea.
We could check.
Ron and I can sit, probably regroup our memory.
Yeah.
Just,
You want to listen to the... I can't read it right now.
three of us there.
Yeah.
I asked, and I think there was a exciting response, or a response, whether it is or not a response.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, so then, what would you like to do with these at this point?
Well, I recommend, since Ron and I were at the last meeting, let us, he and I work together on this document, do some strikeouts, have it retyped and formatted and give it to the board.
Well, you have to give it to the committee first, and the committee has to approve it, and then it goes to the board. But I assure you, they will go to the board. Was there a problem with that, Scott?
I'm just thinking of streamlining.
There's two of you, and there's a whole committee, so the committee has to approve it.
I agree.
You can't say you two are bringing it to the board from the committee. The committee has to approve it.
That's fine.
Okay, so I think what Scott is saying is that there were only a couple of us at the last meeting. It's the problem is that when each working group was getting smaller and smaller, we were doing it, we're growing. I mean, I don't mind, but if you want to open this back up, we might as well just take the time and go through it today.
Talking about opening it back,
Okay.
we're just trying to get to everything.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm thinking too. We've got 6 active community people and 6 staff here. I know you sent around a very nice announcement saying we were resuming the project. The same people are here who always come. I want there to be some way to determine who is active in a group and who isn't. Because clearly, the whole longer list of people in groups that you send everything to, those people are not coming. They haven't been coming from us.
Okay, so that's a different issue, but it is an issue. So then you two will work on this, and you can send it to Cass. Cass will send it out to those of us in this room today. And then from there, my guess is it'll get approved, and then we go to the board, which should be in August, we'll go.
I apologize for my exasperated side. What I'm worried about, Carmel, is a death of 1,000 cuts with this thing. You know what I mean?
Well,
Just that, like, we've just interminably long to get to this point.
And it took a lot of education from both building and planning and Scott, those of us who did not have that knowledge, to have a document that wasn't, it is impossible, I have learned, to put everything in. There are some things you just have to ask your architect or your engineer. So that's what these were boiled down as, from people who had no idea about building and planning, working with staff, and came up with something that was a good, what I thought was a compromise of points of view.
so most likely, and I understand, because I work in government and it takes light years to get anything done, or years. So my guess is we're going to go over this. You know, everybody's going to just give it a once-over. I don't think there's going to be, you guys have already done this, so I doubt that there's going to be a lot of wordsmithing. My only concern would be if there was something glaring that was either by anyone in the group, but there's only a few of you here, and then also we have a new ag commissioner, so we want to make sure that Harnder is on board. Siobhan, I don't know if you ever saw these, and then, of course, Richard. So, I mean, if you can go through this and get it to Cass within the week, she'll get it out. So it's not a problem. And we can't get to the board before August 7th anyway. Because I think that's, we can't go on the 24th.
Is it right, is there a version number? Yeah.
That would be nice, huh?
Yeah.
If you get this in a Word doc, Siobhan. Get this in a Word doc?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we think that the FAQs are almost done. All right. So as far as the group update and discussion, that was really wanting to know where we were, or where you were. So we've got that. And the F1 occupancy, is that something that you're thinking you want to, this committee wants to work on?
I think it's of an area that the community has a great interest in, but I think it's the level of a building official and top-down delegation from administrators to do it. We're not going to make it happen unless we lobby the board to make it happen, because of resistance, well-founded, because I've been on the other side of the counter from the building official, that F1, for you can't trim and bulk package cannabis unless it's in a commercial rated occupancy.
I would agree, and I think Mike would agree with that point too, but
I sent Mike this letter, I sent to everybody else, and I didn't know I was gonna do that. And sent some other building officials, and they all came back with the same opinion, like I've been saying. I'm trying to figure out a different way to skin this cat. And this is a new burgeoning industry. We just have to catch up to it. We're running ahead of the code. And so you can locally amend it to benefit our small cultivators here locally, get local code amendments, and override the building officials, which I don't like to do, I respect him greatly, or we just go what everybody else is doing. We have an ability to amend the code locally to favor local, small cultivators, not the big ones, the small ones.
You can sit down.
You know, it's pretty technical stuff. No offense to the group here, but I spent 30 years getting to this point, and I don't have time.
So, Richard, you're good with that? We'll
yeah,
be out of here.
I think that's right. I think it's unlikely, in my opinion, that it'll change his mind. But I think we should move forward with whatever direction you want to go, and I think he would be okay with that.
I don't want to offend him. I mean, we're going to push the politics button if we can, but I respect his decision. I completely understand the rationale behind it, and if I was on the other side of the counter, I'd probably react the same way. It's a political matter now. It's not a code matter. It's a political matter. It's just a code matter.
But I would like to support that there are many people affected by this in a very negative way.
No.
And in a way that is not justifiable by any health and safety issue.
And the
Total overkill.
reason for that is we can only grow, I don't grow, 10,000-foot max canopy. Doesn't take much of a thing to trim the leaves and the stems off it and put it in a bin in a bag. And it doesn't. It doesn't meet the intent of the code. The letter of the code is a letter of the code, and the only to change it is a local amendment or state amendment.
And the backup is that still, without knowing what we can do to ask people to invest this much in their property and know that you might not ever get that money back. I mean, if you sell, you keep that.
So what this committee could do, you don't have to spend a lot of time on this. You know, you could make a recommendation so that when we go to the board with a summary of what this committee has done, FAQs being one, but there could be a recommendation.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
So whether they take it or not.
Well, yeah, I
And they
would recommend that they amend the building code similar to what I have in my letter dated July 5th.
Okay. All right. So we'll put that down as an action item.
To support the intent, you used some good words there, and I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I think the intent of the code, the letter of the code and the intent of it when it comes to small cultivator are two different things. And I can speak to that to the board. It's just dicey. It's just hard to do.
And there's one more avenue that the board needs to be aware of, and that is building planning in assigning the F1 blanket used definitions in existing code, and one of them was processing hemp. Well, people think hemp and the kind of cannabis we grow in the same sentence, but they're really not at all. And processing hemp is a huge, intensive process that involves machinery and probably bats and all kinds of extra stuff. It's not just somebody sitting there going like this.
No, and that's where they're in a bind.
Actually, there is new wordings coming out in the new code cycle. They're having seminars. I know out in Colorado they are. I can send you a link to
That'd be great.
one that had a discussion on occupancies and the different type of cannabis operations.
Can we look
I
at
can send that to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Where Colorado is different
Can we look at-
processing than we are. It's a very different product grown in a very different place.
And again, this is all new, so
same building code.
And if we can look at Oregon, and like on this verbiage, that was another thing that we came up with, is that how the building permits are structured. So if you have a vineyard, you go in to get a barn, it's a barn. But right now it's saying cannabis on that permit, and that is affecting escrows, and it can affect your loan and your insurance.
And that was something that,
We really talked about.
right, that's not part of our FAQ, but yeah.
Well, there was the direction by Kelly to move that,
Right.
but it hasn't happened.
So is that another recommendation?
That's huge.
So maybe what you want to do, we can do right now, we can sit here and come up with a list, or you can
From the last
bring it.
meeting we had.
They need to track cannabis internally at the planning and building department, just for processes and workflow and all of that. But on the public viewing, like on track it, they shouldn't say cannabis. So there needs to be a different way to track it. They don't want to stigmatize a cannabis permit over somebody else's building permit. Because you get an egg barn for hay, vineyard, cow, sheep, and chickens, it says egg barn. So for an egg barn for cannabis, it's a cannabis egg barn. So they're unfairly stigmatizing.
But there's a glitch in that thinking, in that if there's a Public Information Request Act, which more and more are coming, then in fact it still would be the same situation.
Right.
So if they aren't putting a chicken barn, they aren't putting goat barn, then why would they be putting cannabis? So I think it needs to be removed completely.
This has been brought up to the board more than once.
Hannah can speak to it better when she gets back.
And the board has said, oh, we don't want you to do that, staff. And staff says, oh, we're not doing that anymore.
But they are.
However,
On what forms?
Well, they do it on the login. What does it when you log into the e-tracking system?
So,
Well, pardon me.
no, go ahead, please.
The ag exempt form doesn't have that on there.
No, but the login does on e-track it says cannabis.
Okay.
They can do that.
What is the login does on?
When you get a permit application in, Marco or Taylor or Kayla takes the application and they do that entry into the computer to a system called e-track, which is a public access window into the status of your permit or anybody's permits. All you have to do is type in an address and see all the permits on there. So say we type in your address, Siobhan, and I click on permit number 75, and it says cannabis greenhouse.
So when you say e-track, you mean the publicly accessible agent database?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're standing and planning and building, and one of the staff is literally entering you into the system, are they using Trackit, our internal software?
Yes.
Or, okay, so
It's
not...
the same program. It's the same software program. One's internal, one's external.
Right, but the internal language is not 100% linear connection.
The external one, I can pull it up on my phone right now.
It
says what this application is for, cannabis. And it shouldn't.
So if you go into the planning and building website, you can pull up the Trackit system and look at it. Somebody in the public can look and see what we have Trackit. I didn't know.
If they have an address or a parcel number, or not by name, but by address and parcel number. They can look up.
Did we do that intentionally to have that open?
I didn't know that we could do that either. I thought you typed in the APN and you could get general information like...
Oh, Sarah, just the person I was...
Get violation on the property.
Right.
Just was thinking about you.
Use permits, administrative permits.
Congratulations.
Not just the status. Above. When you put in the type of.
So we have questions for you.
When you put cannabis in it, you stigmatize it. Stop stigmatizing
When
it.
I use e-tracking, that's not what comes up.
So we're going to go to our resident expert here in a minute and ask her what she knows when she's settled in.
Yeah. Some people are not experienced.
So a couple things, just to get you up, because you're part of this committee, is that what we spent some time on was the FAQs, and what we learned is that the FAQs really were worked on with Ron and Scott and Kelly, and that Kelly took them, was going to edit them and then get them back.
Okay.
So the group did think that the FAQs were ready to go. However, they're not ready to go.
Okay.
So Siobhan did find these and brought them to the meeting. So what's going to happen now is Ron and Scott are going to take them. They're going to edit them again and then send them out to the group. Our goal is to get these to the board in August.
Okay.
So we're pretty close. The next thing we were talking about was the occupancy and then also listing cannabis on Trackit. And while the group doesn't want to spend a lot of time on F1 occupancy, what I did suggest is that we go ahead and make a list of recommendations. So when we go to the board, we'll have the FAQs from this committee and also a list of recommendations, even though they're not going to spend hours on them. But what we were just talking about was on Trackit, because apparently on Trackit, they list out if an application is cannabis or not. And what Siobhan and I were just saying is that we didn't know that the information in Track It was available to the public.
Some
find that?
is.
And they did not do it on the most recent submittal. They didn't put cannabis on it.
Yeah, so like if you're, AP's building permits, there's a lot
Yeah,
of
and this
you
is
can
like
look at.
status, right?
Yeah.
So before they were putting cannabis ag exempt, now it's just ag exempt, so that's good. They have, doing that. They have changed things, so that's good. So we can scratch that one off the complaint list.
Okay.
Good.
So, well, okay, but wait, though, it's dismissed. No, wait a minute.
I don't think
It's dismissed.
you're making decisions for the group. I don't agree with you. There's still a Public Information Request Act that can still have cannabis. That's my point.
Of course, anything.
So if we back to, though, the issue is that it sounds like it's hit and miss, though.
Mhm.
That, some applications will say cannabis, some applications won't. So there has to be direction to the department. And you're saying that the board did discuss this, and they did tell the department not to list cannabis. Do you remember what?
And my guess is that there's still cleanup that needs to be done. So I'm assuming once the direction was given, as new ones come in, they weren't doing it, but that doesn't necessarily mean cleanup of all past applications have been fixed in the system. So I think that's kind of the next
Okay,
step.
so what we'll do, if Mary Lynn doesn't come in before, all right.
My guess is that they don't do it anymore, if they're not doing it.
So if Mary Lynn does not come in before the end of the meeting, then Sarah will follow up with the planning department and.
We need to update all the old applications.
Yeah, we need to take cannabis
Building,
off. Yeah.
planning, APs, and building.
Let's see, I got an old one here.
But just following your point, how are you going to, will building and planning be able to know what time they're spending on each? Are you tracking that? I know it came up in the budget of what cannabis time is taking up. Is that still going to allow you to do that?
Every time it's like magic today, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. It's like.
It's like they have a line.
It's like. Hi, Mary. How are you? Would you like some, oh, you have water?
Well, I don't think track it needs to track staff time.
Okay.
That's our internal time cards where you
I've been at too many.
code your time.
Okay.
So this group has been working on FAQs. They're going to finish them up to the board next month. And they're going to make a recommendation on F1 occupancy, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. And then we were just talking about Track It and the Track It system that is open to the public. Some of the information in there will list if it's a cannabis app and some won't.
And we've tried to do away with that. We've come up with a different, Adrian came up with some kind of different thing, so we won't have that information on there as far as.
There may be a few that have slipped
through, that have been done previously.
Okay.
Yeah,
Going forward.
Scott has is from like February, so.
Yeah. So as far as I know, we've taken care of that.
Okay, so then the direction to your staff is that they will not list cannabis on the.
Right,
Okay, great.
right.
That should.
Right, yeah, we don't do that.
Can it come off?
Honestly, it's a lot of work.
That's a tall order. Do a search.
Not in Track It, you don't search.
So you can't create a database?
Well, you also want to think about the specific documents we're talking about. For example, I don't know, your zoning clearance, something that's manually created versus something that's a fillable PDF that is searchable. A lot of the documentation we're talking about is stuff that people fill out. So it would be quite a bit to ask staff to go back and redo those documents. It also could require folks to come back to the county because their signature might be on a lot of the documentation. And we wouldn't be able to remove something from Track It without replacing it 100%. So
What does the signature have to do with the cannabis word?
I'm thinking more if you redo an entire document that requires someone's signature, they would have to come back to.
Cannabis.
Based on a form.
Yeah, it's
So,
Yeah.
the Freedom of Information Act request and concern is a valid one. Very few people go to that extent to look for something. Generally, when they do that,
It's gaming.
it's complaint or litigation. These ladies would know if they get me.
Well, actually, we've created a report for cultivation, Track It, and so that's what we provide for public records request now. It's a standard report we run from Trust, and that's what we give out for permit or application information regarding cultivation. We already have a list that we can give out for facilities that we run out of on this.
And building permits are a whole nother.
Yeah, building permits are a whole different PR, it's like a norm.
And
normal
the
PRA.
bottom line, I think, could we go back and take the word out of old building permits that have already been completed or issued or whatever? We could, but when we have 73 people standing at our counters to try and help in one day, we don't have the staff to go back and take it out.
Well, and that makes complete sense, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a workaround at some point in time to change.
Oh, it could be, definitely could be.
And so maybe we could think of what that is.
Well, it would just be staff time to go through and remove it from the building permit application and description.
Can we get a timeline on that, or can we get volunteers to help?
Can an email go out to people that have gotten them as a general cannabis email of saying, you know, maybe when the FAQs come out, that this would be something that you want to go back and check to make sure that your records
And then there
are
could
suitable for
be a
you?
request.
Well, usually what we do, I will tell you that based on, you know, everything that we do in the county system, we usually go forward. And so it's
Okay.
really difficult for us to take our staff time to go back and clean something up. So I'm not taking it off the table completely, but what I would say is for now, you know, I mean, if it's possible, but I'm not, you know, we're really, there's a lot of departments that are short-staffed in planning. One of the biggest programs being hit with multiple activities. But what we can do is we can revisit this, and I mean, if there was a way to have an extra help person over there to get in there and then we take the word cannabis out of writing applications to do it. So we'll keep it on the list, but we're not going to promise anything right now, but know that we understand the problem.
Yeah, from the perspective of equally, what you're to Marilyn on the other side, people can't get loans, they lose their loans, they lose their financing, things like that.
No, I've heard that. That's why we stopped doing, we got direction from the board to stop, we stopped going forward.
So just, it's equally as important on the other side. So maybe thinking caps can be put on, and creativity outside of staff can come up with some suggestions. I'll think about it.
Okay, so, what else? And you know, I haven't been a part of this committee, so go ahead, Karen.
I think Hannah Nelson wrote quite a memo in advance of these looking for not being procedures. And one of the things I'm unfortunately seeing for the first time today, but she raised the issue of the currency of information on various county websites. When Scott, I guess, mentioned that you have links between the various websites as they pertain to certain issues, maybe from our FAQs or other topics, but who in the county is responsible for coordinating what goes on in county websites?
Well, actually, every department is responsible for their own pages. I know Ag is really stale, but they got an administrative services manager that has a communication background and knows how to manage our web pages. So that should be improving soon. But she is there, what,
2 weeks?
week two. But she's great. But every department manages their own departmental pages, and there's usually one point of contact at each department. So in planning and building, it's usually Adrienne, or she designates it to one of her admin people. In Ag, it's typically the administrative services manager, which just got filled. So.
And how about
And who talks between the different responsible people? Which Kelly, I think, would have done had he remained, or is somebody in his position, but who coordinates the individual departments?
I can answer the part about Ag. So I've met with Laura, and she and I will partner with her through the process, in addition to working with Adrienne in planning and building. Once Laura's up to speed, we've already had a couple of meetings to figure out a new pathway for this as far as getting information from cultivators, requests from cultivators for information to the person who's actually going to upload it to the website.
Yeah, and I think before we weren't doing as many meetings, but now we're starting to meet again as a collective group of the departments. to discuss various issues, but there is not one person that coordinates every single web page for the county. It's department specific. There are some pages that are countywide.
Right.
The cannabis information that pertains to your department will be managed by the department, whether it's in mental health, Mary Lynn, or agriculture. Now we are starting meetings again where we are meeting frequently at that common communication.
So there's such an overlap, right? You know, you're gonna have, okay, what are the planning questions, they have to use a planning building, whatever, and then for more information, see Siobhan's outfit, right?
That's kind of what I think we're both asking, is to just add maybe a few more links to whatever is the right address, where that departmental responsible updating person is gonna see them coming from other departments and can be sending to others.
So that's not just helpful to the public, it's helpful to staff
Oh, yeah.
also. I mean, because we do that, I mean, constantly, I look at something and I wish there was a link to this, or how do I, so it goes both, and we all need that.
We do have a landing page, which we can improve upon. I mean, it has some of the basic things, like which departments do what type of permits that are related to cannabis. The MendocinoCounty.org/cannabis is that landing page, and it has some information where it has listed department and the types of permits or things that they do, and it links to those web pages. But we can definitely improve upon.
But sometimes it's hard to even find that. It's kind of...
It's on your website. That's another story.
Well,
It's actually been revised,
Better than
I know.
so.
But we still have a lot of work to do with ours.
Glad you guys are at least thinking that way, that's important. That'd be a
We're on
good
it.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
That'll be helpful.
No doubt.
So, but speaking of Hannah's, multi-page email here.
I'm still there.
All good points.
Yeah.
Look,
Are you on the phone?
No.
Oh, no, family.
I will make it.
I have family here,
clear
too.
sometimes. We did change the meeting because the 4th of July was last week. That's the reason why we changed from our normal set schedule to holiday.
Yeah, but that's has been the first
It's still going to be the first Thursday unless there's a holiday.
February.
So is this something that you all wanted to go through? Or
Yeah.
are there specific points here? Can somebody take the lead on this?
I think
Do you have, do you have Hannah's email? Is that over there?
I think
Okay, Hannah's email is over there.
I did not commit it to memory.
All right, I'm gonna start this.
I just thought this morning.
Okay, so she starts with issues related to process, the insufficient notice, inability to retain a consistent schedule. Sarah's already spoke to that, so I'm gonna leave that one alone.
We're still back to the first Thursday next month.
Yeah, and the minutes, timely and well in advance.
That's tough.
I'm gonna leave that one alone too, unless somebody in here would like to be responsible for the minutes.
Well, it's recording. Yeah, I haven't been able to find any of them.
Well, so we did, all I can did, I don't know what happened when I stopped coming. Okay, that's what I would
No,
say.
true.
So if we stopped taping when I stopped coming, then I'm sorry about
Oh.
it. We taped, and then they're all there.
It's always,
The last one that's on the website is dated May 3rd.
That's probably.
yes, there was.
So
No.
there was a meeting in June and hasn't been uploaded. But the recording from May 3rd is up.
Let me double check with staff who were responsible for recording it, because Harinder and I weren't there.
The system was new, and, Kelly was there, but there was another lady, Erica,
Erica.
learning how, with help on the May 3rd meeting, and then she was on her own. Amanda helped.
But if it's text and it was recorded, we can get it. That's so.
Exactly.
Kelly kept reminding us that it was being recorded at
Yeah.
the meeting.
That was my fault.
So, all right, so that's a follow-up, we'll figure out that.
Yeah.
The third one, I think, speaks to Corinne's issue, which I would open this to the group, because, basically, when you're asking who's actually on the committee versus who is just observing, I don't know how this group feels about that. And I'm opening it up.
It's been an interesting journey to see that there's just a few people who are really involved in it until something happens that they don't like. It's like, well, I wasn't involved. So I think we need to have some type of structure of how you monitor it or how you participate, because we'll always keep going backwards.
Well, it's interesting to me because some people that have been always on the list and have done notified claim they were never notified. And then the people that, you know, what you were speaking to also. I like Hannah's idea of you know, every 6 months, viewing who's coming, opening it up to anybody, and then closing it again.
Because it requires participation.
Exactly.
I would say that it depends on what kind of cycle we be still in, God forbid. But I think we need, like, you missed 3 meetings, you're not on the committee, thank you anyway.
I agree.
Because otherwise,
You can call
you don't know what's going on, you feel bad that your issues weren't more important and that somebody else's were, and it's a mess.
it. And there's conference call, so it's not like you...
You can officially show up.
So if I miss any meeting,
Good, right. That would be great. Call in.
I'm on
There you go.
a couple of BLM and Forest Service committees for land access for hunters and off-road people. They usually limit the amount of people in the group who apply to be in the group. And again, it's an exclusive club. They're painting the nexus bureaucracy. But Julia and Hannah are exactly right. You get newcomers in, or someone that just keeps reinventing the wheel, something we've discussed and we can't handle it, just keep talking about it,
And then nothing gets done.
and nothing gets done. And so I think you got to limit it to 10, 12 people. And they apply to be on the committee by that day, what expertise can they bring in, and limit it to 10 or 12 people, and if they want to drop out, find an alternate. Because this is too big a group here. Look at the trouble you have with 5 people on the board. Right?
kind of the usual though, right? Faces I am.
This isn't bad, but we're narrow our focus more. I'm not sure these.
And as Kelly was saying, he wanted to have a smaller group, and I said, rather than put yourself out there saying it's a smaller group, attrition or some way of doing that self-corrected that.
I guess my question is sort of not knowing we're in round 2 of Working Group 2.0 is coming forward. I mean, my only suggestion was when this first started, there wasn't like a whole lot of clear direction in terms of these are the items that each group will be focused on. So I know that was a challenge for me to throw a dart at the board and say, what out of the 4 groups are more relevant for me to participate in?
Me too.
So I think if that's going to be the case, where it's an application or a limiting factor, I think it needs to be upfront. These are the items, or, you know, within this working group that will be discussed.
We don't have that much direction, doesn't we?
Well, that's my point, is I guess what I'm saying.
No, very, very seriously,
Right, 'cause-
you're saying,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen.
Right.
But we're smacked when we took our own direction. So it's
Well, you're right.
we're
That was
encouraged
that. Yeah.
to move forward without some kind of assurance that, yes, you can do that, no, you can't do that, and if you can't do that, why?
Maybe that's part of the recommendation. Like, working groups need to make their recommendation that these are the things that we're working on, and you know what I mean?
Yes,
If it's,
and,
and so, we're working on this, and
Well,
it's a yay or nay.
well, let's talk about this, because the one big issue is transferability. And so you can almost work on anything except transferability. That's been, I'm going to tell you.
No, you're right.
I'm not making.
Oh, no,
decisions, and I don't-
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing.
I'm as much a part of this as you are.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely agreeing with you.
So, you know, that is the issue. But remember, if we can close out these working groups and start on the new working groups, transferability is on that list. So we will actually get a transferability working group.
Exactly, that's why I would like to report out.
You know,
Whatever groups we can on August the 7th.
Defensive
So that we can pick up transferability
Well,
I think
sooner than later.
is this one of them? Because I mean, once we make the F1 occupancy recommendation and we bring the FAQs and also report on the other stuff you did, is this one we close?
Yeah.
And I think we can go back to the.
Because you never can open up another topic until you finish something. You've got to finish some of these things.
And we make sure that we don't have transferability in the building user group discussions. I mean, that's not.
I say on August 7th, I know you guys don't want to hear this. August 7th, you don't mention the T word at all, as Devin, or Siobhan, sorry, those names are so similar. As Siobhan mentioned, you know, we just don't mention it. And then, but as part of recommendations to the board, we say, these are the next 4 working groups. Remember, somebody in here said to the board we had 12. We don't. We have 8. Which means 4 here and 4 there. So we do the next the transferability is one and the next.
Is it 4 and 11s?
I think you're not gonna get anywhere if you bring up transferability at the August.
John and Dan.
That's what we got.
Right, but what I'm saying, maybe I'm not being clear. What I said is that, as Sarah said, we're going to go in and if we can close out these 4 working groups on August 7th with the board, then the statement to the board is, we will now be,
So I agree, that's what we decided last.
and one of them is transferability. But when you do your reports, whether it's the next committee or this one, if you do your report on transferability, you're going to get shot down. You're not going to get anywhere. So
I don't think we have to wait till all 4 current groups to clear the docket. All we need is one space for transferability.
I got it.
declaring, well, we're close to clearing it.
May 3rd, since we have the recording for May 3rd, we can go back, and at that meeting, we concluded that, well, for track and trace, that we would answer these few questions and then we'd hold it till November, not completely close it out, but put it on until we got further information. I think that would free up a spot.
That is a good idea. We need one spot to bring it on, right?
Well,
Right?
choose that one, bring on.
So, the point is that we're really close to
Which point?
being able to do a report out on this one.
What are the 4? So here is my list. I put this on here in the beginning. And so our fifth group was cycles and numbers.
That closed out.
Right, and
That closed out.
And so-
Another slot open.
And then this one was.
The next one, number 6, was transferability. 7 was marketing, branding, economics, and education. And 8 was processing, manufacturing, packaging, distribution, non-competition, which is
So it's next.
so it should be coming up as the next group. Now, what I heard at the board meeting, I
Yeah.
didn't agree, is that Alan said that these groups were the direction of the board of what the topics would be. And I don't remember that. I remember coming into our first working group and we did a poll. Didn't we do an online poll of what the topics would be?
Yep.
Well, but here's what you have to remember, that the board has to approve these working groups. So in that regard, for one of the supervisors on the dais to say, these are the working groups, these are the topics by the board, basically what they're saying is these are the approved working groups. I mean, that's really, we would not be sitting here right now. If the board decided on the 10th, no more working groups, we wouldn't be sitting here. So that's basically what I'm
I
saying.
think transferability, don't you think that the ad hoc committee will be testing waters with that discussion before?
I don't know.
Dan insisted before we joined the ad hoc committee, that John agreed that they would discuss it. That was one of the, he did not want to be part of that ad hoc committee.
I still think on August 7th, we could come in and we could say, one of the next working groups is transferability. At that point in time, if the 2 supervisors that are on the ad hoc say, no, the ad hoc is going to deal with that, then we know that. So I am honestly not certain what they're going to do. What I do know, and I did ask for clarification again this morning because I don't want us to be duplicating effort. So that ad hoc is going to be working solely on the ordinance, the local ordinance, right? So whether transferability is going to be a part of that or not, I don't know. And I think that since we have it as a working group, we can still go to the board on the 7th and say, we're convening new working groups, and transferability is one of them. And there's 5 of them sitting up there. They can direct us not to do it.
I agree with Carmel. I think that's the safest strategy, given what was said about the creation of the ad hoc, because transferability would require an amendment to the ordinance.
Well, you have to remember that.
Well,
But what you have well, anyway, the ad hoc was only a 3-2 vote. This was not unanimous. So we have to be very careful.
How do we,
And I just would like to add that one of the things that Supervisor McCowan has said is that he doesn't want to look at transferability until 2019. However, how these working groups work, it will take until 2019 to have a product given to them. So I think it's important to include some kind of supplemental, discussion in regards to the next working group is transferability, which will not have a product until 2019.
but Chair Hamburg wanted it done on this.
We went a long way in presenting a very rational concept of abilities to have change of ownership. A long way.
Well, we have a very good presentation, but John's concern is that it only includes interested parties. It doesn't include those that aren't interested.
So we're right back to where we started with who makes up a working group.
Right.
So speaking of that, thank you for getting us back there. I am going to, make an executive decision here that we are going to report out on August 7th. As part of that report out, we're not going to present on transfer.
No.
But we will say that there will be additional working groups now, since we're closing 1 or 2 of them, and transferability will be the next working group. And then if the board says, right, and if the board says no, then you know that. But right now, I think that's where we're at. Getting back to this, regarding the makeup of the committees, let's just deal with this one right now. So, Cass has the list, and there's like 20 people, if not more, that come up to the committee, and there's about 7 of you that consistently come. So we've had these working groups as open groups. What we could do, I guess, is form the group. So basically, everybody that's here today is on the committee, unless there's other people that regularly come that make today.
Right?
One discussion.
Yeah, you're right.
We're
You're right.
closing this out,
So it
though.
doesn't really matter. So this could be the last meeting?
Unless practice to carry on.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
We're making a recommendation on F1, and I think Colonel's right, and I will just let it.
All right, okay, then we don't have to worry about it. But going forward, we probably have a little bit more structure on these working groups for the next working group to come up. One, I think that as far as the makeup of that working group, so, and maybe we do limit those working groups. Honestly, 8 people is more than enough. So rather than, what we've done. And 2, if we want to actually come up with some topics for those working groups, we can do that.
Can we have alternate members so that you can,
on
the phone conference, so that if
I don't see a problem with
somebody signs up and they don't show up, how do you fill that, whereas you would have somebody that shows an interest?
Do we almost need many bylaws, not really bylaws, but like rules?
Do we want to do phone conferences anymore?
Yes.
Yeah, they're hard.
Can you hear?
What it has to do with the diversity.
No, that's what happened to me this morning.
It's on.
In a very discreet manner, and lose that diversity, and then some people sometimes become interested as topics come up. Something comes up for them.
Well, I think that people could attend, but as far as like for instance, what we just experienced with the FAQs, right? So what if you had 6 new people here and then you had to start over on these FAQs? I think that's the question, not so much, we want to be inclusive. We've been inclusive in most of these working groups. So, but, it's actually up to the group, really, more than me, how you want to approach it.
And I totally agree with that perspective. The other perspective is that the board supervisors meeting and they're saying, we don't believe that the transferability is diverse, even though it was open to everybody. And so then if you start to restrict it, then that argument gets more potent later on. Say, it's selected and now you can never change who's coming in and someone else. So they say, I have a different opinion, but they can't get in now. Just saying what could be a different way of looking at it. I'm not taking either side.
Yeah, and Stuart's right, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. There are people that say that they were never involved, but they were always included and they never showed up. So I like the idea of if you haven't, either by phone or if you haven't officially attended the meeting, then you're no longer on the committee, and that opens up a new spot. And then I think there needs to be some kind of experience or position or something where they qualify for it, in that it's not someone that's coming from San Diego that just moved here that wants to run their political action committee agenda, which is happening more and more here.
How do you want to handle number 3? Should we just leave it for now? We kind of talked about it, and then the next committee that we're forming, we make a better decision or a clear decision.
Come back and.
All right.
I was thinking, have we seen a problem?
Yeah,
We have?
the transferability, because it,
Oh.
That was
well, no, it wasn't a problem, but the board didn't see that we opened it up.
This pattern is being steamrolled.
Okay.
Transferability issue, no matter whatever way you want to look at it, someone's trying to stop it moving forward.
Yeah, so outside of that,
Don't make
Okay.
those stops as real problems.
so outside of that, we haven't,
Critical.
so outside of that, we haven't really seen it.
So it's like, why are we discussing this?
Hannah brought it up, and I
know.
brought it up because there were people that were coming that don't come for a while, and then they show up at either at the committee meeting or at a subcommittee meeting, and then we have to spend all the time bringing them up to speed and get anything.
I guess I haven't really seen much of that,
Or
so.
board meeting, and they assigned to the supervisors that they were excluded.
Yeah, that was
Well, it's a
before the,
Yeah.
but here I haven't really.
There was one really contentious meeting, I believe it was, with this. We've been doing this frequently asked questions for a while. It did really bog down for a little bit, first with Kelly taking over from you guys and not actually being fully up to speed, and then with one meeting where it seemed like there was a lot of people who were really asking about their own projects and things versus the whole, overall, we look, we got something to get done.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so we have a follow-up on number 2 and number 3. Let's go to number 4 so we can keep going. Subcommittees effective, just in line that must have appropriate scheduling and authority. I think the scheduling, that we know what we're doing there. The authority and boundaries, let's have agreement. Do you have this? Does everyone have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Must have agreement about what the boundaries and authority of each subcommittee is. This may change with each task, whatever. And maybe we can be sure we have a quick rundown of these issues as each subcommittee is tasked. So I don't know that there's anything in particular we can do. Am I missing something?
well, she's saying here that she doesn't want the whole working group to approve something, and I actually disagree with that. I don't even think it's legal. I don't know, though, I'm not an attorney.
So what I see reading all of this is just, long, very short, there's no structure.
Right, I would agree.
So I think that seems like you want a little bit more, or she's recommending to maybe do some type of structure, a formal structure.
I have to tell you, they're not,
How many people?
the thing is,
A working group. How many
okay,
people
so
are in a subcommittee?
we deal with ad hocs all the time, and the ad hocs are not structured. We deal with the standing committees, which are Brown Act structured meetings. We deal with the board meetings. There's, we can do structure as far as we can be clear on what the topics are and deal with those topics, but we're not going to make this a formal meeting because there's no way we can. Devin?
Well, I was just going to suggest, I think you guys have done this already, but, speak now for the ultra key for mentality, the agenda, draft agenda goes out a week before. Please provide any agenda items to us, carried by X, too bad, just that. I think that's just the way to do it, because it's not going to be, we need to kind of keep that structure, a limited structure, but I think that will benefit, somebody who may not see something on there that they want to talk about, and it gives them opportunity to do so. That's what everybody is prepared to talk about.
Along those lines, I agree with Devin. Also, who votes on what? Because there was a couple filibusters that happened.
And you did.
So, and does the whole committee vote? Does the subcommittee vote? Do only a couple members of those committee? And in my opinion, the committee votes. If you don't vote by this time, you don't get a vote. Sorry. And that's how it works.
When you ran it, you sent us out a list, and we have our agenda items in at a certain time. There was a problem with the timing on that, but that's how you ran it, and that's how we functioned.
You got used to it. I won't be running these groups for...
Your structure.
You said that a year ago. And you're still here. Jack.
But the top, the paragraphic there is authority and boundaries. So we can discuss the boundaries, okay, but we don't have any authority.
Correct.
So if we don't have a sense of purpose with a rationale that what we are doing is going to be heard and appropriately considered, are we here?
That was kind of my
That's a good point.
question is that, you know, I'm learning, and government is way different than the private sector. I am definitely seeing that, on how this works. And it seemed to me that even as members of the working group, if we are in the public, we aren't able to convey what happened here. It seemed that if it didn't come from Kelly or staff, that it didn't happen. That,
Well, I would probably agree with everything that's been said. And I think that, I don't think that there was, you know, if you look at why these working groups were formed, you know, they were formed because of all the multiple issues that really couldn't be discussed at the board level. There just wasn't enough time.
3 minutes, was it?
Right. But I guess first with the authority, the working groups don't have any authority. I don't have any authority. So whatever happens, that's why making the recommendations is a really good thing. Now, you know, what happens at the board level with those recommendations, there's not one of us in this room that could say what's going to happen.
Right.
But, you know, if you're, I mean, everybody's really committed. You're all here. So we can try to put structure to the working groups. We can try to, and, you know, certainly on my side as far as, you know, when we send out the notices, the scheduling, all of that, we can do all that structure. And because we haven't had, and mainly, you know, a lot of things went by the way since October of 17. And these working groups were, you know, were absolutely impacted by that as well. So we can do structure. The authority of the working group is, you know, really just as you are a working group. You're not even an advisory board. You're not even an advisory board. You're not a citizens committee, which we know that some counties have formed. So, you know, I think that you do the best you can. You make the best recommendations. You present them to the board, and that's the most that you can do.
Okay. Let me answer my own question, but I was just thinking as you were speaking, would it be any merit for the next 4 working groups to request a board liaison for each one of those working groups?
You can do that. You certainly can do that.
Having board members are participatory in the conversations, there's maybe a little bit more buy-in at the conversational level when it comes back to the board.
You can do that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. It happened when we were on the overlay and that whole contentious one. We had several board members.
Consistently.
No, but for that meeting.
I think that even though it's not a technical authority, we feel that these groups have been successful.
They have been. I think so too.
We're all talking.
Yeah.
And you're hearing from both sides, and the board members that I've spoken to, I can say I'm on this working group, this is what we're saying, and I think it's effective, and even transferability, but right there, because it's moved forward much further than they expected, because it's become an issue. It's out there, it's been discussed. We don't have the final resolution, but it's being discussed now. We're all discussing it.
So we can make a recommendation, Kath, another recommendation that with the next 4 working groups, that there be a board member liaison with those working groups.
And maybe that's with the ad hoc, maybe they can take turns coming in. One time John, maybe next time Dan, or whatever.
The only thing with that is then you limit it to just 2. And, you know, that's the only thing, that if you're going to have 4 groups, you want a different supervisor at each group.
Oh, okay.
You just kind of get a flavor of the industry.
You know,
Right. It would help them understand what is going on at a...
I mean, you can limit it to Dan and John, but remember, Dan's going off the board in December.
Exactly, that's why
So,
I think you're a good idea.
transferability ad hoc is conceived with laws, but
yes, local ordinance ad hoc.
I know, but that was John's point. Anything outside the working groups was his point. He specifically said it. So,
But we limited it though, Corinne, and that was the question that came up as far as, see, ad hocs don't run like that, and the board can't really go against their own rules, you know, and the fact is that ad hocs have to be very specific. So it can't be everything in the kitchen sink.
Do you think it was better that it was ad hoc versus the standing committee?
No, I don't. I think it should have been a standing committee, but
Because there was the last ad hoc, we had these huge meetings in Willits. A couple of them, people came, and John just said, yep, we can't answer that. So I didn't see, so that's why I was confused when we're going back to another ad hoc of how.
will it be different this time?
Yeah.
I think we should wait and see, honestly, because it may be different. You have different people involved.
No.
It's quite a different set.
You're a newcomer.
All I'm asking you to do is have a little faith and watch it.
We've been in it for a long
We went through this.
Well, that's not
I think the one recommendation that you could make, the one recommendation you could make is an open process.
Right.
And the problem with the ad hoc versus the standing committee are Brown Act meetings. They're open public meetings. They have to be noticed. Anybody could attend. And when you have an ad hoc, you have no idea what happens.
Okay, that was my question. Is how to,
So, quite honestly, with this ad hoc, if John and Dan wanted to sit in a room and not have anybody there and write everything up and deliver it to the board and get a third vote, they could do it. You have to be involved. Not you, Ron, even though you think you're going to be.
I'm beginning to see that.
Nobody has to be involved.
I'm seeing this now.
And I have a workload here, believe me.
And I watched that happen. I watched
Again.
stakeholders be brutally treated, and people walked out and created their own thing. And in fact, there was a very angry board member that really didn't like how the ad hoc behaved.
And in hindsight.
Appropriately so. So one of those ad hoc committee members is on the current ad hoc committee. So that's why you're getting a pushback. So it's important. I think Carmel is making a really good point here, a request and a recommendation that it be an open process.
Yeah, and I think that can be a recommendation from this committee, that the ad hoc process be an open process. And Carrie Brown has actually
Gave us that opportunity.
Yes.
that where we had Brown Act ad hoc. This one is not a Brown Act ad hoc. So, but you can make the recommendation for an open process, you know, because you really don't want on any topic, you know, it depends on what it is. But in this case, I mean, they're so high profile, you really don't want somebody sitting in their office rewriting an ordinance and then bringing it to the board and saying that this is what, you know, the ad hoc came.
That's what Supervisor Brown did. She gave us an opportunity, but we weren't astute of the process to say standing committee versus ad hoc.
Yeah.
We showed our thing at
So anyway, so just so, you know, we have another committee, so we should, are you leaving us, Scott?
I gotta go, I got another meeting with Dan.
All right, thank you.
All right, see you guys.
Okay, so I think we kind of beat this one, authority and boundaries.
Yeah.
We'll have a little more clarity on this next time around. Limited resources of staff, I don't know, whether it requires ag or county council approval, blah, getting, involved. Working with
Pretty
staff, processing, teaching,
I think an agenda would fix that.
time commitments. Yeah, we can do that, yeah.
Because with the agenda, everybody would know who would be needed for the top.
All right.
I don't think that's what she means here, because she did actually talk directly to me about it. Like the example she's given about county council, there's a transitional period that we're all going through right now. And the department can't create people. So it's going to take a while to parse through all of the requests. A lot of it is, you know, it's taking a while. I'm specifically assigned to over 200 roles personally, in addition to the thousands of inquiries that the office is getting daily. So, as far as can we have time commitments from staff on when we'll be able to get responses back, Your inquiry requires information from the Board of Supervisors. There's no way possible for me to tell you how long it's going to take for you to get an answer. And so this one's complicated, I think.
Well, it is, and we don't have county council involved. 9 times out of 10, whatever the issue is, we have to get county council opinion. And we have county council at the table intentionally because we don't want to take up their time to stay, to sit in our meetings. So that also is an issue. I don't know that there's much we can do about this. So if it's okay, we'll move on to the next page. We must have a process by which we can bring forth new issues to the board in a timely manner. New working group categories, we've already talked about that. New topics for existing work groups. New issues that cannot wait for working group process. Working group rapid response task force comprised of 3 to 5 reps of all working groups to deal with issues that cannot wait for normal working group process. Cannabis is not our only issue. I realize that cannabis is a priority, but not our only issue. And the same people, the same staff that are sitting here doing cannabis are the staff that are doing everything else. So if as working groups you want to form a rapid response task force, you can make that recommendation to the board, but there's only so many board meetings as well. So what issues are there that you think you have to get to the board right away?
State. Thing that was
Need some back.
state regulations.
2555. It's killing our nurseries.
And so...
And if you have specific goals that are of concern, the easiest way is to just call me.
Okay.
So
a
how...
lot of it's covered in our ledge platform.
Right.
Or we may have, and in a lot of situations that people make in public comment, we have already sent a support post letter.
Yeah. So I think maybe you just don't know the process.
Can you share those thoughts? Because that was my concern, and I know we're in the buildings group, but we've worked into state rates. That group morphed into local issues because we had absolutely no coordination, and there was often it's because of state time limits and public comment periods. We couldn't organize with stakeholders and county staff coming up with a county support letter. But that's what we need. We need more of them.
Not the last emergency regulations, the emergency regulations we did, the local sales, cultivator sales.
Right, we got that one.
Letter.
Except nurseries can't.
And what I tried to tell the state working groups, I told them before, and I'll say it again here, and I'll say it again in the next one. We have a legislative platform. If you get on the legislative platform, we can advocate and we can take action because the board's already approved it. We given an opportunity to add to it when we did a legislative platform in January, in February, and created it, and no one did. So I went based on...
We had no groups running.
We did. And I did our legislative platform, brought it to the board based on what things that we had supported or didn't want to support before. That process starts the fall of every single year because all requests for new bills, the members have to be submitted by November. We usually start the legislative process of doing our platform in October. It gets adopted in December, and we advocate on the next year. So I would suggest that the state working group actually pay attention and participate because it's the same process we do every year.
But there's an unfortunate twist in this cannabis stuff, which is that the state keeps having meetings and changing things to which we want to respond. So it may not have been possible to get on the legislative agenda, but it may be a very important issue for Mendocino County that we would like to coordinate with the county to respond to the state, whether it's the VCC or the TDSA or the governor about fish and wildlife. There are things that be fitting properly into the legislative platform.
I completely agree.
Many other things.
I think that the state group needs to coordinate with you, and I think that's a good...
I don't want to jump ahead. The state requirements is at 3:30, and if there are other people who want to be here, so if we can table this, but know that there is a process to expedite, particularly if it's a response to the state or whatever. And many times, Sarah writes letters with a chair's signature, we send them, and then 2 weeks later, when there's a board meeting, we get the approval. Because as long as it's part of the platform,
As long as it's broad enough for the state.
So, that's not, that really is something that is not an issue. And, I'm not quite sure I'm following Hannah here, but I'm going to leave it alone at this point.
It'd be a good state FAQ for that group to put together, to know how, because as meetings as I attended, I'm just feeling like I'm just beginning to learn the process and how things work. I mean, I'm feeling really bad on blowing that on Tuesday between the ad hoc and the standing. So if there's maybe a link that working group members could go to become more familiar with the process of the schedules of when things need to be done. I mean, just jotting them down.
The best thing to do is really to just ask us questions, and, we'll answer any question you ask.
Then if you have
Just
legislative concerns on a bill, let us know, because we have our own internal tracking of bills that we track because we know it's got a big impact on counties. Summer gets cannabis, the vast majority is like a wide range of issues. If there's a problem, you can always contact us. We can try to get information or tell you if we've taken a position, we haven't taken a position. I mean, we're very, very active with our lobbyists, with staff, with our CRC, within the county.
And I think, honestly, if we could, kind of an old-fashioned newsletter, blend what us in the community are learning and what you're learning, that could be there for people who really want to stay on top of it, can follow that. Because I know you guys are doing things and we're doing things, but nowhere is that aggregated.
Let's put that as an item to talk about, communication pathway information, newsletter, I think is the topic. So then she goes on to talk about this one, which I just don't feel like we can do anything about. She talks about creation of local amendment state requirements working group, which minus transfer, whatever. It's absolutely insane to try to deal with one without the other. Well, we're not going to deal with local ordinance requirements, because that's going to be John's issue. So I'm going to leave this one alone. Both moving targets will change over time. She's right, but they are delineated. So temporary task force for state regs to be issued. I don't know. Let's bring that up in state requirements. And then building requirements, I don't know, have we gone through all of this already?
Yeah, we did.
Number 3, okay. So number 4, permit license procedures working group. There's a myriad of issues that come up with respect to the development of the process of procedures. To a certain extent, some of these issues necessarily involve only staff determinations of how to handle situations that arise. However, staff would certainly benefit from a regular briefing with respect to all issues that arise on the ground, and also benefit from yada-da-da-da.
I would like to know, if I could ask, what Siobhan was referencing at the board meeting about a new application packet or process, or how things are going to work.
So one of the things that we've learned over the past year is that the format in which we requested the information from cultivators isn't best suited for multiple departments to be using. So between the ag department, environmental health, planning, building, air quality, we've tried to determine what's the most important information that we need in order to review applications. How can we streamline the choice in language folks use, the difference between a greenhouse and a hoop house, that sends them down one or another pathway during the review from Planning and Building Services? And does it, how much sense, and is it efficient for an applicant to have a zoning clearance that could take 30 minutes to an hour, in addition to an application submittal with ag inspector. So one of the things we're trying to look at is there a way to combine these two and streamline so we ask better questions and get better information, and we having people come into the county twice.
Yeah.
Application workshop days.
Well, we think we can meet with people one-on-one with departments as a whole, and meet. We're there, we're meeting together. It's like our own little mini roundtable with each applicant, and that way we can, if they've got a different question, a workshop's great, but everybody has a different scenario when they come into this. And so a year later, we're figuring out that a lot of the questions we're asking, either the applicant doesn't understand it well enough, or we don't need that information. That's really not that important. Or there's other things that we need to be asking that we're not.
That's too far off.
And we don't know the answer. What is the new program, right?
Well, and that's what we're developing.
And then my next question, my follow-up question.
I thought it was a parallel program.
How will the new criteria, will it apply to renewals in exactly the same way as if you were a new applicant? So, or if you're renewing, are you not subject to the same type of collection of data because you really already have presented it? How's that going to work?
It kind of depends, because everybody's original application may or may not have had certain conditions tied to it, number one. Number two, parallel procedures, as in people who have already scheduled won't have to reschedule within the new system. We're going to do both until we weed one out and only go with the other.
So we're working on it. We don't have a date yet.
Okay.
That's why what I did say was that the plan is that we release it at the beginning of August. And also, if we do decide to move forward, there will be very specific workshops, not only for the application and the process itself, but we've also, how the original application packet had all this information. We've tried to design something so that a person sits with the directions and application and can go through it together at the same time. And so that's a lot is administrative, cleaning up the actual document and trying to get everybody on the same page. So the goal is to make it easier for folks coming into the program.
And to make it easier on staff, because a lot of the stuff we found, we don't need to look at the stuff for a planning portion of it.
And would you be able to have a day, this is something I was thinking of to encourage more people to come in, to where they go, they get their site map or their AP map, and a biologist can look and could see some red flags as far as streams or things, and just quickly point those out. They're going like, these could be red flags. Think about that before you apply.
Two things are going to happen on that front. We are specifically going to target the TPZ and FL folks who do need APs and as a mechanism in order to get them permitted. In addition to that, we have already begun to organize open ag days, where agricultural inspectors and staff are available for applicants to come in randomly. They don't need to make an appointment in order to get information from us. That is one of the tasks.
Commissioner.
Yeah.
We will get people the information, and I'm sorry it's taking a while, but again, Mary Lynn and I don't want to release a process that we aren't 100% confident makes the most sense. Okay. And that's where we are with it. Straight up. For real.
As far as renewals, we don't know.
That's huge.
Take our money and let us go. We've put up with,
Drones.
Yeah.
I think for the people that are still doing the same thing and haven't changed anything, but what we're finding is a lot of people have changed things through the year, and it may be a little bit different for them than a person that's been consistent.
But it is being talked about and looked at very meticulously by myself under Harlander's direction. We partner together every day in order to see where are we, whose hand is in which pocket and which pot, and what are they grabbing out of it. So we're on it.
And
I'm
that
trying.
might be a good letter to send out to people when their renewal time is coming up ahead of time, that if you have made changes, you might want to, so that it's not, my renewal date's here and I've got all this other stuff to do, kind of a, hey, it's not just to go forward without any difference.
So one of the things, I'm sorry, it's
Yeah,
2 minutes to 3. We have another working group at 3:30. So what I'd like to do is there's just a few more, just get through this and then wrap this up so we can all take a break before state requirements. So I'm going to go to the...
Because the main last week was building and planning, set a background in electrical and power systems, and to represent the people that are off-grid, with these restrictions, in the sense of the subject that could be discussed here, that I did discuss with the former Ag Commissioner, but it's actually a state regulation that was limiting generators to be larger than 50 horsepower. And under 50 horsepower, you're only allowed to use your, and I think that in our community, there's a lot of people who off the grid, and that's the background of this. I know that your grid isn't those. That is absolutely the most unecological, idiotic rule I could possibly imagine, because if you don't use the full amount of the generator, particularly diesel generators, they carbolate, and it's very inefficient. And to limit, so you have that one bigger than 50 horsepower. That's a very big generator. And a lot of times you don't need a lot of lights to multi-light. The rules say this is I know this from my background electronically, but I don't think that people realize the impact that this could have on rural communities like this. And I think the reason has to do with air quality, where they have a restriction over 50 horsepower. So that might be a reason based on legislative issues, but it's absolutely stupid. And it's going to cost huge amounts of wasted fuel. It's going to have generators that are way oversized for what their application is. And there are certain periods where you might want a larger generator, but 10,000 square foot in our community, that's not a very big kilowatt.
Yeah.
And like 100 kW generator, not kW, but the horsepower. I don't think people are aware of the consequences of that, so I don't know if that should be discussed in the building department first and then go to state. But I do think this is an issue that should be brought up with the regulations on the state level. And I'm personally dealing with that. We're off the grid, we have a very sophisticated power system, I understand generators, and I can try to educate people about it.
Just real quick, were they trying to get people to not use generators at all and use solar power? Isn't that part of the...
That's local. That's Mendocino County. At the state level, they would like you to do alternative power, but it's totally legal. Those gigantic generators, as long as it meets the air quality standards. But if it's under 50 horsepower, it can only be used for emergency use. They want a timer on it, which we normally do have. People need to disconnect the back wire. But that's stupid. I mean, they're trying when you have a little bit of bad weather and not enough solar. If you want to run your generator, you don't want to run a 200 kW generator.
To run 500 watts of light.
Right. Anyway,
generator stuff, John?
So we're talking state.
One of the recommendations outside that group perhaps that John and Dan can take up.
That's something to bring to the ad hoc.
No, this is state.
Oh, yeah, well, then
local, they're supposed to suddenly have, one year, I didn't talk about it for 2.5 hours, and we got it extended for a year. But it's not feasible for people to get solar systems up that fast to meet the standards that haven't even been built yet.
Can I just, so you know, as far as what's actually happening, we're using that language in the ordinance, at least 50% based on utility from the site inspection. So if I go to your site and you only use the generator in order to pump water into your tanks, that's the only use of the generator, how do we measure you off 50% of that? Right? Because it's the only thing you use the generator, so what, you're going to tell me you use it half the time now? That doesn't really make sense either. So we are trying to work with people as much as we can, realizing that the language, some golf ball size holes in it. And one of the things that I've kind of advocated for, if the whole property is on generator, what's the power that you have cultivating? Is there a way you can slowly wean yourself off? Meaning, can you start with the pump
We have a resort, we're not good at it. I'm very good at that, but our system now is becoming too small. We have solar.
Yeah.
However, when do you need multi-light?
Right.
When the sun's gone.
Right.
You want to increase the time, so then you need batteries. Now, batteries are the weak link.
Yeah.
Give you an example. A lithium phosphate battery, you go and check your building, and this thing is a little bit bigger than a car battery. How much do you think it is? This is more state-of-the-art.
Yeah, no, yeah.
$3,500 for one cell.
I understand.
Yeah. That's the other one that being sent to Australia by Elon Musk. And you have lead-acid batteries. But multi-light is actually the most ecological solution for cultivation. People don't understand that because if you have indoor, you bring power supplies thousands of miles from businesses, you have a local generator that's only operating at the time that it's needed, and most of the time you're using natural sun with no conversion.
Right.
So where does this particular issue land? Where should we put this issue?
State requirements. Yeah.
We can move a lot of this stuff from building, now that we've got our stuff discovered, is going to go into the state.
But there is the local part right now where they want to convert to solar, but they don't fully understand that solar only works when the sun's out.
Right.
And then you have battery backups. There's a lot more to it, and you need to give people more time to get together.
So I'm thinking it's more local, but it's not really a building issue. It might be more of an air quality issue. Because I don't think it's a building issue.
Put it as an issue that we'll get back to. Yeah, one of the groups.
I think it's a juristic issue. Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep going because, we need to have at least 20 minutes in between work.
Okay.
So the micro business working group, this is in addition to the filter and over micro business. We don't have micro business.
Micro business is the number one most popular when we did our survey, and transferability was second.
Talking about the survey on issues or the survey for the
Working groups. That's issues, not working groups.
It's an issue is what I'm saying.
So
where does micro business?
Don't you have a subcommittee?
No.
Oh, and
We kept bringing it up, but we didn't.
Transferability was rendered.
And people were saying after the last board meeting that you have codified some new micro business language.
Yeah, it went into effect July 5th.
Okay, and where is that final language?
In the ordinance, which would be, no, it's not in Muni Code.
Yes, it will be on any ordinance that hasn't been codified. The PDF that was adopted by the board will be on the home page.
Okay.
It's on the top.
So one of the things at the last meeting we had with Kelly is that I kind of got a little upset because he was saying, well, we'll get back to the micro business thing later on. And I said that that's easy to say, but we're depending on that to distribute product right now.
Yes.
And so it's a huge issue out there. And there's a lot of issues around the micro business. I mean, that is going to cause more confusion with having a fire hydrant and having to get an address for your fire hydrant and having to have space for trucks. That was why we're trying to get to the board the ability for a micro business to be able to process up to 4 acres of other people's products. That way, those who can afford to go through the micro.
That has not happened yet, but that to me is more, and I don't remember if that's one of the direction items we have or not. I have 3 or 4. I don't think it is, but maybe that's something that the ad hoc. Got that on his.
No, I don't know, but I can find out.
I mean, we keep trying to bring that up at the board.
Okay, generators, micro business, those two are left hanging. Okay, the on-site consumption, tasting, cannabis tourism, we absolutely believe that, we absolutely support cannabis tourism. So I'm not sure. I'm sorry?
Yeah, we allow. You can have a tasting room at your retail outlet, and the state allows that. And obviously there's room to add more license types, but then that's going to also cross over state requirements and how they're going to regulate businesses like that.
So what about the margins?
See, it's more of a health department stuff.
So do we want to have an environmental health process on solid waste?
I think there was something, that's why Dave Jensen was involved originally on this.
Let's put that, we're gonna put the the tasting rooms, in with the, generator and micro business and
Because the
see.
way we regulate.
That may be, it may be an environmental health issue. I don't know.
Regulate any of that.
Okay, and then the last one, extinguish and transfer rules. We still have no clear guidance on the specifics of extinguish and transfer. We must be able to give input as to the real-life issues that face what's trying to utilize this process. I think everybody in this room concurs, and we know transferability is on the list.
Just so you know, though, as far as relocation.
Talking about.
She's talking about relocation. I don't have proof of prior where I want to grow, so I'm going to move my garden to the destination site. This is something that staff has been working on. Now that we're at this position, the next sort of component to this is for Harnder. Well, I think it's for Harnder and I to look at the process, look at the relocation applications we have on file right now, and then make determinations. I think that it's more about, is there an inconsistency with the ordinance that we're actually seeing, and if so, let's identify it and figure out how to ratify it, rather than just determine there's an inconsistency, because we have had a few successful relocation applications that have been permitted. So, I'm on this, basically what I'm
okay.
Quick question on that. If you have a greenhouse for cultivation and you extinguish, does that greenhouse have to go?
It depends. Because if you aren't, well, and this is actually in the ordinance.
This is huge, because
If you are leaving and the greenhouse is on your exhibit, that's different. If you are selling your property and you're leaving greenhouse for your new property owner, the greenhouse remediated, not necessarily a part of the remediation. It's the cannabis activity, right? Because your greenhouse is a structure that's on your property. Would I tell you to condemn the garage that you're using?
But with cannabis, we never know.
The word in the ordinance is not quite that flexible.
That's not what we're looking at. I mean, we're looking at, for example, have a successful relocation application. The flower pots were repotted with vegetables.
That's great. I'm happy to say that, but that's not the way the ordinance is written.
No.
Clean up the language to make it be more flexible.
So, on that note, we have 20 minutes until state requirement. I want to just go through, we already talked about the FAQs, we're going to work on that, we're going to make some recommendations, F1 occupancy, a couple other things, we talked about the website, we talked about 3 issues, generator, micro-business, and tasting room that are kind of out there. We're not going to lose them, but we're not going to deal with them right now. And then Siobhan has been talking to you about the
Relocation.
Anyway, so I think at this point,
So are we now saying goodbye to the meeting?
well, we have to pull it together, and for the small group, they have to make sure that everything that is being presented that goes on the agenda summary is what this group supports, and also what we would like to do, and we didn't talk about this later, but what we'd like to do is have 1 or 2 members from each working group speak, so it's not just staff talking about these working groups and reporting out. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that a little later. That's how well, we're going to do it again. But
I'm
the
fine.
same 6 of you that are up board every single Tuesday. 7. Yes. It's in the. It's not a question. We'll make it as a recommendation. Or these other 3 are questions. So thank you, everyone. See you in 20 minutes. Go ahead, Corinne.
No, I'm sorry, I was just clicking my pen.
We'll do 1 final meeting on August 2nd.
Okay,
wrap everything up.
before our presentation.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll wrap everything up. So it's the same time, and it'll be the first Thursday. Yeah, August 2nd.
1:30?
Yes, and hopefully we won't be having a Sigma meeting, One more time, we're going to make sure that the presentation to the board, that the handful of you that are here will agree to that, and then that'll be it.
So, could we add generators and some of that one?
So the
No. because we need to find another place for these.
For that, those aren't building owners.
So
They're
that's the
state.
thing, the generator, micro-business, and
State
taste.
and local,
State and local.
it's not building.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and do you think generator belongs with the ad hoc, the local ordinance?
Ooh,
think
yeah,
it
let
does.
John fight that one out.
I think it really does.
The local portion of it, yes, the state portion, obviously the state.
Who's going to inspect the electrical part of the generator to determine all of these issues? Because they want to have timers and meters. They want
Okay, I'm
For
done.
the state,
Yeah.
The building department usually, build an electrical building inspector.
the state requirements, the state responsibility.
Yeah, it's not ours.
Okay, but the state now is
Just have-
contracted with us, they're inspecting.
Yeah, but you can't have a biologist inspect for electrical. I know, that's right.
Well, they also don't ask
Okay,
specifics.
you guys want to continue to talk about this, you're welcome to. I'll see you.
There's a lot of regulations in the states that are not enforceable.
When we do the current state.
You're not talking about, I'm going to come and say, if I get a non-compliant, here it says they're not enforceable.
So,
I mean, I feel like if you get on the radar, you better watch out. Like,
I don't know that.
for stuff where like an electrician would have to inspect and
Don't worry
state
about it. Scott will make a
requirements, they're the ones responsible for finding the inspectors with
I
the
don't know that.
knowledge that needs to be able to do that.
all we're doing is verifying whether or not you have one on the property.